Do you remember a gentleman named Joe Clair?
Joe, what up, kid?
Hey, what's up?
Okay, I thought you knew.
Joe Clair is good.
We have to have a community.
Joe is definitely iconic.
From Washington, D.C.
You know him and you love him. I'm talking about the legendary Joe Clair. He's one of our incredible hosts right here on Fox 5 on the DMV zone during the week. But before he graced our studio here, he was already making a name for himself as a comedian and host of TV shows like Mad Sports and the iconic Rap City. Tonight, we'll be diving into more about his life, just asking the question, who is Joe Clair? I'm Kevin McCarthy, and this is a moment of clarity, the Joe Clair Story. So why don't we go back to the beginning? Where are we right
problem.
now?
We are in Peppermill Village in Seat Pleasant, Maryland. So we're here. This is my block.
And I gotta say, it's amazing to be here. There are so many people who have already come outside to say hello to Joe. Joe grew up here, which is incredible. Obviously, as we walk right by your house, if I were to ask you right now, what is the first memory that comes to mind of something that happened in this region that we're sitting in? Can you see yourself as a young kid doing something on this street?
Yes.
Visually that
Yes.
you can go, oh, I remember like
Yes.
it was yesterday.
I did everything on this block. It was really family oriented. Everybody, these were all families. This was that village raising a child kind of thing. We all got in trouble together. Just to put it into a little context, we're talking about the 70s and the 80s. You can look at all the news and see the turmoil that was going on, all the controversy that was going on surrounding race, class, everything else. And these people are having a unique opportunity to become the black middle class in the middle of all of that. So you can understand what these people who lived here wanted for us, and I'm a product of that.
Do you remember the inspiration you had to become an entertainer at a certain age? Was it on this block? Do you remember living here and kind of hitting you?
So yes, all of these guys were like the funniest people I've ever met in my life. There's no comedian who's ever said anything outside of the realm of what these guys would come up with. So it wasn't like I was setting myself up to become an entertainer, but once I left this neighborhood, went to a new school and started my life kind of over, it just became apparent that this guy's funny. And people would say it to me, and I didn't think I was, because I would come back here and I wouldn't be funny at all.
Right.
But then I would go somewhere else and they dying laughing. Kevin like, oh my God, you're hilarious. My friends thought, no, you are not funny. What are you doing? I'm funny. What is it? What my sweater? Because I got on this substitute teacher outfit. Y'all don't want to laugh. My wife made me wear this outfit. Y'all. Tell the truth. Don't I look like a husband? If I take this out, don't I look like a husband? I look married as hell. Tell the truth. Look. Please come out the store.
Joy was a dreamer, and that's how I saw him from the time he was 2 or something like that. I remember that he used to, when he first started being mobile, he started crawling backwards, which was really a little strange, but he would crawl backwards and he loved to get under the coffee table, and he would just be there dreaming. And he was funny, but he didn't, walk around making jokes. He just was who he was. I can remember the day that it all settled into place with me, that he was, to me, a star. And, I was worried, it's going to work for him, and I hope he'll be happy, and all of those things. But I went to New York to see a play. And when you come out, and I had taken the train, and when you come up, you're in front of, when you come out of Penn Station, you're right at Madison Square Garden. And so I was in the taxi line, and I looked up and I saw his name on the marquee. And I just lost it. I was just like, oh my God. And I said to the people, like, that's my son. And I I guess people see that all the time in New York, but I hadn't. And it just, I'd never seen his name on a marquee. That's who he is, and that's a part of who he is, and he was a star.
Mr. Joe Clair, say yes! Hey, y'all! Come on, play this. Hey, y'all. How y'all doing? Keep up that good work, man. Thank y'all so much.
The bomb.
Cool. Top 10 is fresh.
Raw. DC.
Good evening, everybody.
Boy, DC show is getting gentrified.
Y'all don't even sound like we us. Good evening, everybody. Hey, come on.
You had a cartoon character and all they did was have you laugh, I'd be like, hey, that's Joe Clair.
Everything. JC is DMV.
He's a hometown favorite, a true comedy vet.
Black women got that smack. That came all the way over from Africa. You know how long we've been in? That is tens of thousands a year old. Don't get rid of it for your funky ass little child.
Coming up in the comedy world, it's a grind, it's a struggle, it's a hustle, because to stay in the comedy game and sustain yourself, you gotta have a really thick shell, but you have to have people that you can count on, who know the journey and what you're going through.
I think the first time I met Joe Clair was in the studio at my previous radio station when he got hired to do the morning show. And he walked in just funny as ever.
When he started doing mornings at WPGC, I was also doing mornings, and they brought us down to a conference room, and we're sitting there, and you can hear this loud guy from like a mile away. Is this where it's at? Is this where we're gonna be at? And I'm like, oh my God, this has to be Joe Clair.
So frequently we would do the Comedy Store in Hollywood. I was a regular at the Comedy Store. Joe Clair was hosting a night there, and we just sat around and we talked all night. And this is where comics get to just talk, and they don't have to be the stage persona. And we really got to have great conversation. Joe was just like, I think it was at the beginning stages, and I was like, are you sure, Joe? But it was really, we really got to talk and connect, and that is what it is. That's how you stay in this game, is connection. And so it was really fun connecting with Joe, and I'm just so happy to see everything, all the success that is happening for him.
Anyway, let's get to it.
Naima, he is your gift. Good luck.
When you think of Joe Clair, you think of the entertainer, what you see on TV or hear on the radio or see on the comedy stage. I mean, I just keep on going. That's all this man does, perform all the time.
1, 2, 3. Our God, he's an awesome God.
But I remember what he really did for me was let me understand and make me understand that it's cool to be yourself. In this business, so many of us you emulate others, you want to do other things, but God, just be you. That's why I like you, brother, and that's why you're here, because of you. And so when you have somebody that believes in you because of who you truly are, not because of what everybody else wants you to be, that's truly a friend and somebody that I could learn from and learn from, because he has always been himself and has excelled while doing so.
I'm the kind of brother.
When you're surrounded by artists and celebrities, and it just sometimes feels like people are just moving and people are very selfish, to see someone care so much about people around him and always wanting you to win. He always wanted you to win. There was never a time where you felt like Joe Clair was going to stunt your progress. He was always there, always encouraging, always helpful, and that's kind of what I've taken in. Like, I want to be that for someone as well.
Coming up next, we'll dive more into Joe's career and how he forced his foot in the door of the world of television. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back to A Moment of Clarity, the Joe Clair Story. Tonight's all about the one and only Joe Clair, a DMV kid turned comedian who made his mark as the host of BET's Rap City, an iconic show that jump-started countless hip-hop and rap careers. Take a look. All right, Joe, so for people who don't know, I mean, I feel like Rap City is obviously a thing that everyone really knows about, but if you were to tell someone, you know, what is Rap City, what would you say?
Rap City was the longest running nationally syndicated hip hop video show ever.
Wow.
There's other regional video shows that have been on longer than Rap City, but nationally we were number one and we were on for 20 years, about 20 years.
And the journey of how you actually became one of the hosts of that show is really remarkable. And it's a great lesson in just asking over and over again, putting yourself out there, making sure that, you know, if you're passionate about something, that will drive you.
Yeah.
But talk about the adversity that you faced in terms of kind of trying to get that gig.
Well, first of all, I didn't know anybody in entertainment. And I was just starting to make my rounds in the comedy circuit, so I really wanted to be on BET, but the adversity is you don't know anybody. So I just started picking up the phone and calling. I left a message. Hey, my name is Joe Clair. I'm a comedian. I know everything about hip hop. Please give me a call back when you get a chance. I need to be on your show. And they don't call me back. The next thing you know, I call him back a week later. And then I called a week again. And the next week, and the next week, and the next week. And this went on, Kevin, for 10 or 11 months. Long story short, one of the producers there recognized me from telling jokes throughout that year. I was sneaking into any show I could get on. He was like, what's your name? And I was like, I'm Joe Clair, and blah, 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 blah. And they started giving me auditions, and then I got to host the show for 5.5 years.
You got to keep in mind, we didn't have social media back then. And in order to see, you know, the artists that we want to see on television, you would turn to Rap City. And when I walked into Fox 5 and saw him, I got to be honest, I was a bit starstruck. I'm like, wow, that's Joe Clair.
And Joe Clair's hip hop. Joe Clair's hip hop culture from the beginning. Early in the game, no question.
I'm like, everybody on that show is good. Joe Clair is good.
Here you have a stand-up comedian, a VJ, an actor, all wrapped in one, plus a psychology degree. I'm like, this guy's also pretty smart. My specific memory I will never forget is his interview with Notorious B.I.G. I remember it being outside. Biggie was wearing the Versace glasses. He was against there was like a metal fence behind them. And Joe was just asking, you know, really good questions because at that particular time you had the beef between Tupac and Biggie, and for Joe, just as a journalist as well, just to ask questions to Biggie about this. And unfortunately, you know, he was one of the last people to interview Biggie.
Why do you think Rap City had the impact it did? And now with the 50th anniversary of hip hop, we're getting a lot more stories about Rap City. We're going back to Rap City. BET's doing a lot about it as well. Why do you think it's still relevant in 2023? I mean, hip hop is obviously still relevant, but why is Rap City still on our minds?
I think Rap City is on people's minds and it's going to stay on people's minds because BET gave you as close as you could get to authentic hip hop culture in a television format. I wasn't on a set. I was flying to these people's neighborhoods and interviewing them there. But it had the power of a whole television network behind it. Unlike now, where you go to YouTube, you check out the guy's videos, or you go to YouTube, check out a podcast or whatever, and you get to know the artist. It wasn't the same as putting them in a television setting, and television at that time was king. Now here I am as Joe Clair, your trusted advisor, taking you right here. And I think that's why it stays on everybody's mind. And then later, you know, the booth, where now we have the BET Cypher, which is like the highlight of freestyling every year. Everybody looks forward to this BET Cypher. Started on rap radio, then it became the booth, and the booth transformed, and now you have this Cypher. So BET has given you, like, Rap City has given you, like, those very real, unfiltered or as unfiltered as possible touches into the hip hop culture that you really, really have been craving, and that's why it stays on everybody's mind.
Up next, Joe doesn't just have a big personality, he has a massive heart. And we'll hear all about his work around the DMV to help others' lives become a little easier. That and more when we return. All right, welcome back to A Moment of Clarity, the Joe Clair Story. So far, we've heard about Joe growing up and his professional career, but beyond that, Joe also does a lot of work to help others around the DMV and the country. I sat down with Joe to learn all about it and more. Take a look. Now, your journey obviously goes into many things. Obviously, you're now working on DMV Zone.
Hello, DMV.
Worked in radio, obviously, but your community work is obviously a big part of what you do as well. How do you choose what you're going to focus on in terms of community? Because obviously, you're living back in the area where you grew up.
So it happened. Like I was sitting there trying to find an outlet for outreach. And it just so happened that when I first got back to DC in 2013 at WHUR with Frank Ski, I got an opportunity to do the National Sleep Out with Covenant House.
You get a cardboard box, you get a sleeping bag, you get a spot, and you sleep outside. This is where the rubber meets the road. This is the boots on the ground. This is where it gets real.
4.2 million young people are homeless at any given moment in the United States of America. I was just gonna do the sleep out that one night, see if I could raise some money, help some people out. When I went to the event that happens right before the sleep out, the young people were up there rapping, and they had these beats and everything, and I was like, well, I make music and I rap and I know hip hop. This is a way for me to connect to them directly. And I'm sure no one else here, not the exec who runs it, the person who's trying to find them a job, the person that's teaching them how to do their resume, or the person that's teaching them how to dress, is gonna speak to their creative outlet in the way that I think that creative outlet needs to be spoken to. And so I was like, dive in right here. It wasn't there's always gonna be a need for volunteers and hands other places. And there was no special agenda. This was just, it fell in my lap. Let me go give my energy to, and homeless youth. You remember when you were 18, 19, 20 years old? Imagine all of the stuff you had to go through at 22, but you were homeless.
One of the other things you deal with is helping with employees and donations.
Talk
about that aspect of it and how you choose to focus your efforts on certain aspects.
Well, I'll do at that point. So now I have the Covenant House as like the big ball of help. But then, if somebody needs something on a weekend, hey, we're having my frat brothers be having some kind of coat drive or canned food drive. All right, boom, I'll show up. I'll put cans in boxes for a couple of hours. For me, it's like, I guess that's one of the things that my parents gave me. Being progressives was like, not only do we take care of ourselves, we take care of the community as much as we possibly can. If you have some time, what's an hour a week? What's or an hour a month, even a month. Just imagine if every American was to give up 1 hour a month in service to America, how different the country would look.
Yeah.
So I think about it in my community. Imagine if everybody in the African-American community gave 1 hour to the African-American community. We have, I won't mince words here, we have our own set of issues that the country has said we have to deal with on our own again and again and again. So how do we do that? Give up an hour, give up 20 minutes a week, give up something. And so they say lead by example. I just try to be the example, kid. It's a lot. And sometimes I don't feel like doing it. Don't get it twisted. It's days I'm like, nah, man, get somebody else to do it. But then you get, it's just like going to the gym. Then you get there, and I was like, oh, God, I'm so sorry. I felt that way earlier, Lord. Please, Jesus, that wasn't me. This is the real me, Lord.
All right, so I'll end on this particular question because I feel like this is an easy question to answer. Okay. What do you want your legacy to be?
I was a good guy, man. I just want my legacy to be that I was a good guy. I did good things for this world while I was here. I had a good time. Listen, go have a good time with your life. Go and have a good time with your life. I chose wisely when I was a young man. I was like, I'm going to get into art, I'm going to get into media. It's because that's the only thing I could focus on. I couldn't sit in a cubicle. I could not be anybody's boss. And I was like, this is the only thing I'm good at. And it was scary stepping out there, but ta-da! It was like the best thing. So I want my legacy to be, one, I made a good choice with my life, but also that I was a good dude, man, and I was good for the planet.
Well, I believe everything you just said comes across every day I talk to you and meet up with you.
Man.
So it's always a pleasure, my friend. Always a pleasure.
Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Moment of clarity.
Those of you who do not know, I'm on the DMV zone every day at 3 o'clock on Fox 5. It's the only show of its kind. Now, if you're worried about how I act, I don't talk like this on the show. I speak a little more like this. I use my other voice. Because I want everybody to feel welcome, because they say we're going to take a zip trip today. We're taking a zip trip out to Dunkirk, and I'm like, yeah, let's see what's happening out Dunkirk. In the back of my mind, my DC voice going, hey man, the we doing out Dunkirk, son?
I've been knowing Joe Clair since day one. This man been famous since famous won't famous. You heard?
I came out here to ask questions, but what did you say?
I just want a hug.
Oh, you can definitely get the hug.
We love seeing them on television every day at 3 o'clock.
And we are set. Time for the DMV zone, baby. Let's get it. I'm Joe Clair, and you are in the zone.